Hi, friends. Happy Sunday. I hope you are all out doing something fun, but if you have a moment to tune in, it's great to have you here. Um, so, I am going to talk to you about habits today and habit stacking. And this is a topic I'm really excited to get into, especially with our fall Back to Basics challenge right around the corner, starting up this evening. And so I'm going to take you through a little bit about just the basics of habits, what habit stacking is, and how we can start to use that as a tool. And the intention for today is to really give you a resource and a tool for any time you are looking to build a new habit into your life. And so, especially if you're joining in on the fall challenge, this can be a really big help to start to build those new habits into your routines that you already have in place. So, let's start off with what a habit is. So, a habit is a routine or a behavior that we perform regularly and in many cases automatically. And with these habits, our brains, they build really strong networks of neurons that support all the current behaviors that we have. And the more that we do these actions, the stronger and more efficient these connections are going to become. So habits are going to look different for everybody because it matters how often that we do them. So if you take a moment to think about the strong habits that you have in your life and the connections that we do every day, many of which we often take for granted. So, kind of thinking about this, some examples might be your brain might be really efficient at remembering to brush your teeth in the morning, take a shower, brew that really essential morning cup of coffee to get you going, or really there's thousands of other daily habits that you likely experience on a day-to-day basis without really much thought at all. So, what I want to kind of dig into today is how we can start taking advantage of those strong connections that we already have in place and use them to start building new habits as we move forward. So, one of the best ways to build new habits is to start with identifying the current habits that we already do every day. And so, once we can identify those habits that we already have in place, we don't have to give much thought to. They're pretty easy in our routine because there's something that we just do. Once we've identified those, we can start to stack new behaviors on top of those behaviors already in place. And what this is called is habit stacking. And so habit stacking is a pretty unique approach because rather than pairing a new habit with a particular time or maybe a location, we're pairing it with that current habit that's already pretty strong in place and has those connections already built in our brains. And why, you might ask why this works. And it works because the current habits are already built into your brain. You have those patterns and those behaviors, and they've been strengthened probably over several years. So think about, when you started brushing your teeth, like that's probably a pretty ingrained habit for a lot of you of something that you don't really think about anymore. You just do it because it's been a part of your life since you were probably a little kid. And so by linking the new habits to a cycle that's already in place and is already automatic for you, you are more likely to stick to that new behavior. And what's cool about this is that once you've mastered kind of the basic structure of the habit stacking, you can start to create larger stacks by chaining smaller habits together. And we'll go into that a little bit more in depth later on. And so this really allows you to take advantage of kind of that natural momentum that comes from having one behavior lead into a new behavior. And so when we're talking habit stacking, one thing that we can do, and if you have a moment to, whether you're, have it on you now or if you're watching this recording, I encourage you to pause the video and grab a piece of paper or maybe open a new document on your computer and start making a list of all the automatic habits that you already have in place. So maybe some ideas to get you started. We all get out of bed every day, or at least most days. Some days maybe you just need to stay in there. Taking a shower, we do that pretty regularly. Maybe you brush your teeth every day, get dressed every day, brew that morning cup of coffee, eat breakfast, or maybe it's taking your kids to school, or starting your work day. Having this list is really helpful start because you'll have a long list of different behaviors that you do pretty automatically in your routine that we can start to build that stack with. And so the next step would be identifying a new habit that you're looking to build. And once you have that, kind of use this formula, and I will post this in the comments too so you have it in writing. But what it looks like is after, or maybe before, insert your current habit. I will add your intention with your new habit. So this could look like before I brush my teeth at night, I will stretch for 10 minutes. And what's important here is that we are very specific. So there's going to be a difference between in the morning I will versus after I brush my teeth I will. When we give that exact behavior, as in brushing your teeth, we know exactly when this behavior will be performed. On the other hand, if we only are saying in the morning, it's less specific, and mornings can be kind of crazy. They can look a little bit different. They can be ambiguous. So this can lead to inconsistency. So we want to make sure that that current habit is in place and is identified so we know exactly when we are performing this new habit that we are building. So now I'm going to kind of go through some examples of what habit stacking might look like. And I'm going to take you through habit stacking in terms of the Back to the Basics challenge. So the Back to the Basics challenge has 4 weeks. It's 28 days, and each week there is a new habit that we are focusing on. So week 1 is all about protein, and the goal here is to eat protein at every meal plus 1 snack a day. And so some examples for habit stacking. So if you are part of the challenge, or whether you're not, trying to do adding some protein on your own, these are some examples to kind of get you thinking. So one example could be before I go to the store, I will make sure I have a list with at least 2 to 3 different protein options. So the action here, the current habit here, is that I always go to the store to get my groceries. So before I do that, I'm going to make the list and make sure that there's different protein options on there. Another example could be before I sit down to eat dinner, breakfast, lunch, whatever meal you want to put in here, I will make sure to have a serving of protein before I start eating. One more example, before I turn on the TV at night, I will plan my protein for each meal and 1 snack for the next day. So these examples will probably look a little bit different for you if you have different routines. So if you're not someone who watches TV at night, then that last example might not make so much sense, but maybe it's before I read my book, I will plan my protein for the next day. So we want to make sure these are specific to your current habits. Week 2, we are talking veggies, and for everyone, veggies are definitely something we can all add a little bit more to in our day-to-day routines. So some examples here. Before I put veggies away in the fridge, so this can take place after shopping, but before I put them in the fridge, I will chop and prep the veggies to make them easier for me to consume throughout the week. Or before I go to the store, similar to those proteins, I will make a list with at least 4 different veggies to purchase. Another one could be after I do my meal planning, I will skim over my list and make sure I have at least 3 servings of veggies per day. So with that last one, if you're not someone who typically meal plans, that might not be a great example for you, and you may, want to say something like, before I sit down for dinner or before I read my book, I will make a meal plan for the week. So maybe that might be more appropriate if you aren't currently doing meal planning. But if you are someone who does meal plan, adding that veggies to that meal plan may be a helpful way to make sure you have them ready to go. Week number 3 is all about movement. And the goal here is going to be to move your body every day. This can look like a group fitness class, minimum walk of 15 minutes, biking, stretching, all those good types of movements. So some habit ideas here. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. So this gets you prepped and ready for that movement. After I close or turn off my computer for my lunch break, I will go on a 15-minute walk. Before I get into bed, I'll stretch for 15 minutes, or if you're a morning person, after I get out of bed, I will stretch for 15 minutes. Or it might look like something like whenever I see stairs, I will choose them over the elevator or the escalator. So you can kind of start to see how we pick that current habit and then we add to it with something new that we're trying to build. And for week number 4, we are talking mindfulness. So there's going to be 2 options for this. One being making sure you have 3 gratitudes each day, so 3 things you are grateful for. Or you can download an app like Headspace or Calm and do a mindfulness exercise for 5 minutes. And so some habit ideas for this might look like after pouring my morning cup of coffee, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes. Or after I sit down for dinner, I will say 3 things I'm grateful for that happened today. And similarly, just at a different point, after I get into bed at night, I will say 3 things that I'm grateful for. So once you kind of master this kind of basic structure of adding that, you can start to build routines off of the habits that you start to stack. So if you are looking to build your morning routine and your first habit that you are implementing is after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. And once that is feeling pretty solid, it's in your routine, it's been a few weeks, maybe you start to add on to that. So after I meditate for 5 minutes, I will write my to-do list for today. So that current habit of meditate for 5 minutes was that first stack, but now it's a new habit and we can continue to build on. And maybe you even take it one step further, and after I write my to-do list, I will immediately begin my first task. So you can start to see how this habit starts to form a new routine. Even habit stacking in the evening time can look a little bit different and as you build on into a new routine. So maybe it looks like after I finish eating dinner, I will put my plate directly in the dishwasher. And okay, great, that's going well for a few days, for a few weeks maybe even, feeling more solid. And then you start to add on there. So after I put my dishes away, I will wipe down the counter. And now the kitchen's looking great. And you want to add on one more step. Maybe after I wipe down the counter, I will set my coffee mug out for the morning. So you are already not only building your evening routine, but setting yourself up for success for your morning routine as well. So I really encourage you to use this chat today as a tool or resource to help set yourself up for success when you're looking to build new habits. And I'd really love to hear any habit stacking ideas that you have for your routine as you start to think about that and what you might like to implement into your day-to-day. So please share in the comments below any habit stacking ideas because I would love to hear them. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Bye everyone.